As a small business owner, you often have your fair share of challenges. You may even feel you're the only one. Well, what if you could be connected with another small business facing similar challenges? Well, QuickBooks have done that with the Quick Round with QuickBooks Challenge. Two small business owners in the same room facing similar challenges, finding solutions and even giving each other advice. So let's find out what happened in today's Quick Round with QuickBooks Challenge.
Hi, I'm Annie Williams of Awesome Organising. I'm one of those people who was always organised, even as a kid. And when I was retrenched last year, I decided to take a small business that I'd had running since 2014 and turn it into something a little more exciting and full-time. I help businesses and people organise their professional and personal spaces, both physical and digital, so that they enjoy being in the space that they're in. If you want to find me, you'll find me at www.awesomeorganising.com or on Facebook as Awesome Organising.
Hi, I'm Jason from the Piano Man Services. We're a company that's passionate about pianos. We've been in the piano industry for over 30 years, although we've only specialized in pianos for the last 5. The owner, Raymond Cognolio, has always been involved in music, and in the last 5 years, as I said, has specialized in pianos. We do anything regarding pianos, from transport to servicing to tuning to repairs and even sales of parts and accessories. So anything you need, come to The Piano Man. You can find us at www.thepianomanservices.co.za. Thank you.
Annie, Jason, welcome to the Quick Round with QuickBooks Challenge, yet another edition of trying to help people who are running small businesses tackle certain problems and challenges they face. So welcome to the studio. I'm going to give you each an opportunity to introduce yourselves, but I guess the best way to summarize today's edition is to say it's all got to do with tax, right? That dreaded word.
Yes. Thanks, Astrid.
Yep.
Thanks for having us.
Astrid.
Pleasure. Before we dive into that, I'd like to give you an opportunity just to tell me a little bit about your company. Annie Williams, your company is called Awesome Organising. Just paint a summary for me of what exactly it is you do, and then Jason, I'll allow you to do the same.
I come into people's spaces, either their business space or their personal space, and I help them organize it so that they feel that this is a space that they love. So many times you come home, you look at that table or whatever, and you go, if I don't get rid of that junk again, I'm going to scream. My job is to make sure that the junk isn't there. I put processes in place together with you so that you are comfortable. And I work both in your physical space as well as your digital space.
Okay. Jason, the Piano Man.
That's us. That's what we do. We love pianos. We work and restore, we tune, we do anything basically regarding pianos. So from transporting them to fixing them, repairing them, but just to tuning. A piano needs to be tuned at least once a year, and that's where we come in and that's where we can assist.
Okay, so both of you very used to being out there in the trenches. You clearly both hands-on in the businesses. Small businesses. Annie, let's start with your issue, which is really a question about a company that's been registered. You're a PTY, and your question relates to tax status. So put it on the table and then let's take it from there.
My question is, it's very difficult to find information about what liability a company has for tax, when they become liable for tax, and how you go about finding that information without having to hire a tax attorney.
Okay, so let's take a step back. Of course, I'm not a registered tax practitioner. I'm not a financial services provider, so I can't go as far as getting into the detail of your particular issue. But I guess, Jason, that would be something that is on your mind too. There isn't a small business owner or somebody who's running a business that doesn't think about tax all the time, right?
Correct, yes.
And you're not VAT registered yet. Your question will relate to becoming VAT registered, but you would sympathize with Annie, I'm assuming.
Definitely, yes.
All right, let's take a step back then, Annie. The first question that you will be asked if you were to go to somebody is, you're a PTY Limited, but within that context of being a PTY Limited, you would qualify for a certain type of tax status depending on certain criteria that your business fulfills. And I don't know if that's an area you've explored yet, and if that's what's confused you, that you don't know where to start. I mean, the first place I guess that you might have been to, have you ever been to the SARS e-filing website?
Yes, and came away more confused than when I'd started.
Jason, have you ever used the SARS?
No, I use a tax practitioner, so she gets all that sorted for me.
Okay, so I guess the challenge when you're going to the SARS e-filing website is that you've got to know which path to take. And what your challenge or your problem is right now, Annie, the best way to describe it would be your tax compliance status for your business as a PTY Limited. And so you have to be looking for something very specific. And every business can go and look up its compliance profile, its tax compliance status. But to do that, you have to set up a profile. So if you wanted to go the website route, that would be the path to take. But what that's not going to do for you, and I'm sure Jason can step in here, is give you the benefit of somebody who is able to say to you, look, let's take a look at your business. You've been around for X. These are your options. Jason, I'm sure you get that kind of advice. Somebody who's said to you, you could be a small business corporation. You could be an exempt micro enterprise. You could be a micro turnover enterprise. Perhaps you could share with Annie some of that kind of guidance that you've been given.
So yes, although I sympathise with Annie, we are in a similar position where now we have reached a point where we need to register, we've taken the next step and register for VAT. And then that's where my challenge comes in that now we need to add that 14%, but we still need to remain competitive against other competition that hasn't registered for VAT.
Okay, let's park that for a second.
Okay.
So your challenge is particularly specific.
Yes.
And it relates to worrying about your turnover and whether
Yes.
you're going to have to take a knock on that 14%. So
Correct.
we'll get to that.
Okay.
Annie, the next question I want to ask, because you did say something earlier on which made me sit up, and you said, I don't want to go to a tax attorney. What is it that makes you think you need a tax attorney as opposed to an accounting officer or an accountant who can give you tax advice?
Oh, I think it was more sort of just a little bit of a joke because nobody likes
Fear.
attorneys.
Is it born out of fear?
No, it's actually born out of the fact that the business doesn't have a huge turnover at the moment. So there isn't a lot of available cash to start paying specialists.
All right, so let me ask you this question, because I guess it's about shopping around. So we're not talking about going to one of the bigger auditing firms who would charge by the hour. But I know, for example, there are small businesses who are accounting businesses who would probably charge you in the region of 500 Rand as a once-off fee. And for that, they would go and do all that legwork that Jason spoke about on your behalf with SARS. They would come back to you and say, this is the figure that SARS believes you owe them on a tax basis, but you have a number of options with regard to that. If your business is categorized as, and they'll give you different types of categories, you may well find that there is no tax due. For example, we have a type of business that sits within the category of a PTY, which could be a small business corporation or an SBC, as they like to call it. And in that case, the first 75,000 odd Rand of profit is not taxable. It's tax-free. And I don't know that you would get that information from, you certainly wouldn't get it from the SARS website in a way that you would understand. But that would be the benefit, I think, Jason, you'd agree,
Yes,
of having somebody that could take you through the options, the legal options.
Correct, yeah.
Does that sound palatable, a 500 Rand fee?
Certainly.
Were you thinking it was in the thousands?
Well, I wasn't actually even certain what it was going to be. And to be quite honest, one's so busy working in the business that half the time working on the business becomes the problem.
And I guess the thought of going to somebody who is an accounting officer who is also running their own small business is a bit more, you feel a little more comfortable, right?
Correct.
Yeah, you at least can relate, and I think they can possibly relate better to you than a large firm where, it's like, but they only make such a little money.
So the first fear is, how much tax does the company owe?
Yeah.
The second issue within that is you haven't submitted returns, so you're worried about that. One of the principles I think that a lot of small business people can't get their heads around is that you can actually have a discussion with SARS, that you can reach terms and negotiate terms of repayment should there be an amount owing. But you yourself are saying there's not a huge turnover, so you might well find that you're pleasantly surprised. And in fact, there isn't anything owing, but that doesn't mean you don't submit the return, because of course once you reach a certain threshold, you have to submit the return. What about your personal income tax? Is that in order as a small business?
That's in order.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to treat it in very much the same way.
Yeah.
Okay.
There are also websites that you can go to for help. There are websites that offer the service online, Annie. So really, option one is go to the SARS e-filing website, but know which menus to click on, and you're looking for the one that says tax status, and then you're looking for the words tax compliance. And it'll tell you where you fit in. The other option is to find a website that offers that service. They will also charge a fee, but it's also around about 400 to 600 Rand for an initial set of questions that you answer. And your third option is actually to go to a human being with no obligation to get tied into a monthly fee. You do a once-off fee, and it's up to you to decide whether you want to go to them twice a year when you're a provisional taxpayer, or whether you want to hire their services on an ongoing basis.
Great. That's a lot more answers than I thought I'd get.
Okay, well, great. That's good to hear. Let's move to your challenge, which is that dreaded word VAT, Jason. If I understand it correctly, to summarize it for anybody who's watching, you are not a VAT-registered PTY. The business has been around for 30 years, and it's at a point now where you know your turnover is going to hit a certain amount of money, and you actually legally don't have a choice. You're going to have to register for VAT. And your challenge is there are other people providing the same service who are not charging VAT, so are you going to appear to be 14% more expensive?
100%, that's exactly the point.
Okay, have you done an analysis of your customer base and your client base to figure out how many of your clients are able to claim back on that VAT they might be paying over to you, and how many are not?
Yes, so we do deal with universities and schools, with a lot of our institutions which they can claim VAT, so those are not such a big portion. But that only makes up about 30% of our overall client base. 70% of that is private homes and individuals who obviously can't then claim the VAT.
Okay, so it's great to hear that you've done the client analysis, because that's the first step, and it's a step that any business should follow, is understand your different clients. If VAT is an issue and you are VAT registered, there are certain things you might want to consider for those of your clients who can't claim back that VAT they pay over to you. So there are a couple of options for you, but they're not too many, Jason. The first one is if you were to go to someone who was giving you advice, is they would probably say to you, look, you could continue to charge what you charge for your services, inclusive of VAT, which means that what that boils down to is you're not going plus VAT on the invoice. The total amount includes VAT, which actually means that your profit and your turnover concurrently would be 14% less. That doesn't mean you have to do it forever. That's your one option. Have you considered that option?
It's scary always to cut out profits.
And I guess it relates to what you can claim as an expense from your business, because if you're not able to offset a lot of expenses, and that's the challenge with the kinds of businesses both of you are in. You're in a service business, so you're not dealing with heavy plant and machinery and equipment that you can claim back VAT expense on either. All right, so your first option is that keep your prices the same so that you remain competitive, but you are going to take a 14% knock. Especially because 70% of your clients are going to fit into that kind of category. Your second option is to go the plus 14%, but know that you might find of that 70%, quite a few of them might move to a competitor. The third option is an option that a lot of businesses at that point of registering for VAT choose to take, but it's not an option that the taxman looks lightly upon, and it's not an option that the taxman likes, and that is to split your business. So there are a lot of businesses, when they get to that point when they know they have to register for VAT, they make a decision to create two businesses out of the one. And they create a business that is designed for the clients who are not VAT vendors, versus another business that is for those who can claim back the VAT. But there are challenges that come with that, because the taxman will see it as a way of evading tax unless you have a very good reason for doing it, and you've got to be totally above board in the way you do it. And it also relates to if you are a director on the PTY. You can't maintain status. Let's say your business was a small business corporation type of small business, in which case your tax kicks in at, I think, about 7%, and it works on a sliding scale, so it's not that automatic 28%. If you are that kind of PTY, which your tax advisor will be able to tell you, and you set up a second business, but you're a director on both of the businesses, you're going to lose that status as a small business corporation. So that is why it does make sense to be able to be willing to fork out a bit of money, and go to somebody who can explain the pros and cons of all the different scenarios. But that is probably where they would end up guiding you if you are not prepared to take the 14% knock.
So I think that's three very good options. We'd have to look into which one would work best for us. I can see viability in all three, but I then can sit, at least then I know which are our options. And
it's about which questions to ask.
Yes.
So we don't have the time to go into the specific answers for each of your challenges,
Yes.
but at least if we've been able to give you what are the questions you should be asking, what are the terms and phrases you should
Yes.
be looking out for, we can point you in the right direction.
Sounds good.
So I hope that's helped.
Definitely.
And we wish you both well. I look forward to seeing that VAT registration next to the piano man, Jason and Annie. I look forward to awesome organising, giving me a call and letting me know that all the tax affairs are in order.
Sorted.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Astrid.
So there we have it. That brings us to the end of the Quick Round with QuickBooks Challenge. Today's edition, obviously talking about tax. A couple of things that you might want to bear in mind if you're worried about your tax status and how much money you may owe the tax man. You really have a couple of options. Number one, you could go to the SARS e-filing website, but you've got to know what you're looking for. You could actually go to a tax practitioner, you could go to an accounting officer, but really what you want to remember is that you're looking for your tax compliance status, and that is going to depend on what type of business you've got registered, whether you're a PTY or not. There's a category of business that determines your tax status and how much tax might be owing, certain criteria that you might have to meet. If you are a company that is on the brink of registering for VAT, which was the other issue we were dealing with today, then you really have to make a decision in terms of, are you going to keep your prices the same and make your prices include VAT, which means you take a 14% knock on your turnover, or are you going to add the 14%, which does put you a little bit out of the ballpark perhaps with some of your clients. So what that boils down to is understand who your client base is, understand if they can claim back for that VAT, and that'll guide you in the direction you want to take about how much you might have to lose if you're going to start charging 14% extra. And the other option is to look at setting up a new business for clients who can't claim VAT.